Okay, so we just finished up steps 6E through G. On our board, we've got our resistors, capacitors, switch, and our USB plug, as well as our lines going out for the LEDs. Our next step is to cut the battery snap wires. This is going to be your battery snap wires. It says to snap the wires so that about 3 inches remain. So after measuring, 3 inches comes to about right here. So it says to cut those, but for my purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and leave them. Maybe an extra 2 or 3 inches. It'll be fine for what we're doing. We got to make sure we twist the ends of these. They should already be stripped. If not, you'll have to strip them like we did the white and red wires earlier. So I'm going to insert this into the positive and negative spots on the My Place board. The red goes into the positive pad, the black goes onto the negative pad. So I think I'll put these through this hole here to clean it up. You know what, on second thought, I believe that hole goes to something else. So I'll just come back and I'll stick it straight through the top. Up here where it says plus 9V, I'm going to put my red wire in that plus hole. These wires aren't stripped very much, so it's going to be a little difficult. But I'm going to put my red wire and my black wire into the negative hole. And I'm going to try to bend those over on the bottom side, so hopefully they'll hold. Then I'll flip it. However, yep, just as I was worried, both wires came out when I flipped it over. So I'm going to do just the red wire by itself. I'm going to try to get these other wires out of the way. Push the red wire through that hole. And then bend it over on the back. So hopefully it'll hold it. I'm going to carefully place it down here, hoping that it doesn't pull out. And looks like we are good. So I'm going to use my soldering iron to hold that pressure on that wire and then solder it to the pad on the control board. Now I've got to do a little pull, a slight pull test to make sure it's connected good. I'll trim off this extra bit of the lead, and then I'll push the black wire through and bend it over. There's not very much sticking through there, so try to hold it here. And as soon as I relieve the pressure, it falls back out. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to strip this a little bit more. So I don't want to squeeze all the way through to break it off. I just want to get it to a point and hold so I can pull the insulation off from around it. And I'm going to twist the ends back together so the frayed wires will kind of merge in together, push that through, and then bend it over. I've got a lot more to work with, so it's going to stay in a lot better now. And then touch the iron to it, and bring in the solder, remove the iron. And it was quick, simple, quick pull, and trim off the excess. So now we can get that out of the way. Now our next step is to install the 7805 voltage regulator. So I don't think you can see it at all on this, but on this side, the flat side of the voltage regulator, you can actually see the number 7805. This top part is a heatsink. The bottom part is your leads. And it's going to go into the little spot right there that says 7805, which is right beside the USB port. So it says to put the numbers 7805 facing towards the bottom of the board. The bottom of the board is going to be where the word My Place is. And then that heatsink is going to be on the top side, on the side of the USB plug. So we'll just push these 3 leads into the 3 holes there, like so. It won't go down very far because the leads get thicker at the top. That's to keep it off the board some. So we're going to hold it in place, flip the board over, and set it down. And it'll kind of hold itself up. It's not going to be real steady, but it'll prop it up because it's taller than everything else on the back. And then just letting it use its pressure, we'll solder it on there, just like so. And when we're getting to these pieces, these more important pieces, it's important that we don't leave the soldering iron on there for a long time or it'll overheat the piece. So now you can see I've got my 3 leads on there. I could have bent those to help hold them in if I wanted to, but since there was pressure on the table, we didn't have to. And I can just easily bend that over a little bit to get it off that USB plug, clean it up. It's not going to hurt anything if it's sitting on the USB plug, but it just looks a little nicer. So now I'll cut these 3 pieces off of these 3 extra bits of lead off. And there we go. So now we've got all of those on there. We've got enough time. I'm going to go ahead and do the transistors Q1 and Q2, which is 6J, step 6J. So you'll see on the board we've got a spot that says Q1 and Q2. Those are for our transistors. You'll see there's 3 holes around them, a hole on each side, and then a hole on the flat side. When we pull our transistors up here, you notice there's a flat side and a curved side. So it'll match up with the silk screen where the flat side goes to the flat side. Like so, flat side. And then on the side it says 3904 transistor, but you can't really see it. So we're going to pull the transistors out. On this little piece of board, it might be easier if you peel the tape back. And it kind of pulls them off for you, and then you just got to pull them out of the tape at that point. So as you probably noticed earlier, these have 3 leads coming out of them, but our holes are not straight in a line on the board. They're a little bit offset, like in that example. So we could try to bend those leads out some, but what I find works best for me is to just get the first side lead in there and then walk the middle lead into its hole, and then finally that last side lead goes in there, like so. And then we'll go ahead and push it down. You don't have to push it down real hard. It'll kind of have a natural stop to it because of the way the wires are. If you push too hard, you'll end up breaking the leads. So I'm going to bend these some so it'll hold it in place. And then these are heat sensitive, so when I solder these, I'll have to use what we call a heat sink, and that takes the heat that's coming out of your soldering iron and going down through the lead, and it pulls the heat away from that and puts it in the other metal object, so it's not reaching the component and overheating the component. You could use anything like a paper clip or product marketed as a heat sink. But I'm just going to use my tweezers, and I'm going to push it through the side right here to where it, like you can see how they kind of split out. I'm going to push my tweezers right through the side there to where it's splitting in between the back two and the front lead, and it's touching all three leads. So hopefully that will pull some of that heat from there and send it into the tweezers instead of into my transistor, so it doesn't overheat. And since I want this to be quick, I'm going to tend the tip a little bit more, and then just a quick touch on all three holes, because I don't want a lot of heat to transfer into it. And it's really all it takes on this is a quick touch. So we've got looks like three good joints. And I'll go ahead and put this other transistor in. I use the same technique with putting one side lead, then walking it to the middle lead, then back to the other side lead. Make sure the flat side of the transistor mirrors the flat side of the silk screen on the board. So we'll push that down. I'm going to push real hard, just enough to where it pretty much stops sliding. I'll bend these out some so it holds it in place better. And then again, I'm going to use my tweezers as a heat sink. I'm not pushing both of the tweezers through, just one side of the tweezers is going through and touching all three leads. Again, I'm going to tend the tip, hopefully make it go quicker, and then just a quick touch, and then a quick touch there, a quick touch there. Now, from my angle, it looked like I had a good touch over there, but I didn't. I had a cold joint which had a hole, so all I had to do is touch it, and it reheated that solder and made a good solid joint. It's a little bit crooked, but that's okay for what it is. You can bend it a little bit. Again, you don't want to bend it too much or it'll break it. So at this point, I can go through and cut off the remaining part of the leads on all three of those resistors. So again, don't forget to keep up with Schoology. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, reach out to me and let me know.